This is a story about a dude named Lane. He moved to the mainland and bought one place to stay. And then one day he went, tried to rent them out. And then he became one real investor man.
You guys listened to and watching episode 100. It's been, a couple years since I first started this simple passive cash flow thing. And it's come this far. And some people are probably thinking, hey, that's not Robert Kiyosaki over there. You know, some people on their centennial episode, they usually have Robert Kiyosaki or a big guest. I just thought I'd bring my good friend, Abhi Golhar, who's also a big real estate celebrity. Check his YouTube channel out at Real Estate Deal Talk. But thanks for doing this, Abhi.
Hey, man, my pleasure.
Yeah,
this is going to be a fun time.
Yeah, I had an idea for this, and you know, you're probably like the first guy I thought of doing this. Unfortunately, you're in Atlanta, so you're being a good sport, and it's 10 o'clock your time. Appreciate it.
You got it, man. It's going to be a fun time. Like I said, I mean, I'm a huge fan of what you're doing, and you know what they say about good people. Good people attract good people, and I would say probably good people fall in love with good people. So directly or indirectly, I'm in love with you, Lane.
We'll hear more of that once we start drinking more, right?
Right. I got it.
So this is going to be a drunken podcast, so we don't know what's really going to happen. My dog just ran in its kennel because he's a little scared. But I'm drinking the Maui Brewing Company Makawao beer here. And Abhi, what's your drinker choice there? It's evening time for you.
It is evening time. I got some Scotch whiskey. Nom nom nom. It's just this bottle. I can't even read it.
So the format for today's show is going to be kind of a roast of me in a way. Abhi's going to be a good sport, go easy on me. But we've got some questions that you guys submitted. I fired off an email yesterday and see what kind of personal questions you guys came up with. And that's where the booze comes in.
The booze. I think it's all about the booze, Lane. You know, like I think, so I will say just kind of for me starting off, you know, following good people, following good education, it just awesome information, and guys and gals out there that are actually taking action is super cool. And before we kind of get into a drunken fest of questions and, you know, why your last name should really be Kawasaki, I do feel like you are not only a thought leader, but also an inspiration to many investors that are jumping into the game of multifamily that don't really understand multifamily. And so for you to kind of pierce through that and saying, hey, I'm providing good information, good people, good insights, and watch what I'm doing, because you can do it too. It's not super difficult. It's just difficult in the beginning. And once you get started, then it's, you know, you start kind of rocking and rolling. So you're awesome, man.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people are giving me a lot of crap about that theme song in the beginning, how like sort of unprofessional, I guess it is. And maybe I do got to change that. I don't know. Maybe we'll talk about it in the future on a mastermind call we get on. But I want to bring it down to, you know, normal people's level, right? Because when they hear that stupid theme song, they're like, well, that dude can do it. Surely I can buy one rental. So that's the biggest thing, is getting started.
Yeah, I think a theme song. I mean, what other theme song would you like pawn off and use? Like, you know, something from Teletubbies or something? That's not very like inspiring to take action. That makes me feel like I want to go take a nap. No multifamily for you today. I'm going to go take a nap and then jump on my Kawasaki motorbike and then hop on over to Hawaii and then go hang out and drink with Lane.
Right. That's a simple passive way of doing it, right?
that's truly passive. It's like spend more time on the details of the actual travel than anything else.
Exactly. Yeah, let's jump into some of these listener questions. I wrote some notes earlier today because I didn't know how drunk I would be when I was doing this. But yeah.
It's going to get worse. All right. So question number one. How old are you?
So I was born in 1985. So that's puts me right at 32 years old.
I like 32 years young. That's good. That's remarkable, man. Like on this planet, 32 years later, still kicking.
Yeah,
that's
awesome. I
think
how old are you, Abhi, now?
I'm old. I'm an 84 baby. Hold on, but what is that? Another beer? Or is that the same beer?
This is a different beer. This is the same.
That's Maui a different beer.
It's the limited edition.
That's awesome. I still have this entire thing. I still got this entire thing. Yummy. So, okay. So so what month were you born in?
September.
85. September. So are you in are you still considered a Leo? What's like the deal? Because I'm an August 84 baby.
I guess I'd be a Virgo then.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's too bad. All right. So go ahead. Question number two. Question number two. Are you single?
No, I'm taken at the moment. I'm sorry, Abhi. I heard you got married and then it was just all over.
Right. I don't even know where to start with that. Right. All the ladies listening, Lane is off the table. It's totally, all of our hopes and dreams are dying miserably. How much simple passive cash flow do you have coming in, and from what investments? That's a good question.
Yeah. So
you know what we should have done for the next one? You should find out exactly who asked these questions, and then we can roast them too.
Well,
like if it's a bad question.
This is a fair question because I ask everybody that comes on the podcast this, and it's kind of like, whoa, but it's a good question because
it's a good question.
You want to know where people are at on the advice they're giving. It's like, if they're like, well, go invest in bonds and they're worth $20 million, that doesn't really quite apply to you.
That's a good point. So answer the question.
So I'm sitting right at about $3,000 per month right now. Kind of tough because some of my single family homes are kind of sucking at the moment. One's actually, just not doing anything. And a lot of my syndications are starting to ramp up now. So kind of get off and rolling. But I think the biggest thing is I'm sort of financially free at this point. I mean, I have pretty low expenses. I don't buy too many things. Totally the millennial, the experiences over a bunch of crap. So my mindset's more of, I can kind of do what I want, which makes me a little bit more aggressive to go after this business stuff. So the paycheck that I bring in from the day job still, all that goes right into the business. I mean, I don't really have to worry about food on the table is the big thing.
Yeah, I mean, I can clearly see you're spending money, right? Like on that awesome glass, right? Like that glass at your home's probably like $100. Your microphone's probably a couple $100. The amazing video camera that you're using and
there's
the
no banner
lighting.
Yet, no. That's
yeah,
yeah.
It's all no background, not like the mess that I have in my room. Like I'm just kind of chilling. That's cool though. I mean, congratulations on becoming financially free. I think that's the American dream, right? It's to be able to do what you want with whom you want, whenever you want, on your own terms, and you're able to be so like hyper focused on your specific goal, your objective, your investments, and I think it caters beautifully to who you are and your investment personality. I think you and I talk about it all the time on our brainstorming calls. I talk about it a lot on the radio, etc. But that's so crucial to gaining an understanding of what you even want to do anyway. Some of you listening, you might be thinking, hey, I want some passive income in my life. I need some passive cash flow all day, every day, right? So at the end of the day, how do I do that? Am I going to be an operator? Am I going to invest in multifamily? Am I going to invest in businesses or small businesses? And getting that understanding is super crucial, right? Otherwise, you'll pay to understand that pretty heavily.
Yeah.
And I think that's cool, man.
I just want to be like you and quit my day job and just live on the edge as an entrepreneur, right?
I mean, I'm kind of just making stuff up as I go. I'm the kind of guy that's just flying by the seat of my pants saying, the only thing that I know that's going to happen tomorrow morning is I'm going to brush my teeth. Outside of that, I have zero understanding of anything else that could happen.
Right. I probably should quit the day job, but I'm pretty conservative. I mean, it's just great, knowing people like you, and a lot of these other, people our age that are kind of quit their job and they kind of do their own business and they kind of just quit, burn the boats, as they say.
Yeah. I mean, and I think it's definitely one thing to quit, right? It's another thing to quit intentionally. And we can't rush that decision because it's tough, right? It's tough leaving that comfort. It's tough leaving the security or the false sense of security that's created there. I feel like it's tough. You get into a habit. We're all creatures of habit. It's what we do. and we go to work and we come back, and sometimes it's easier to do that and not do anything else. Right. But I would encourage everybody to really take a look at what you've done and understand that creating passive cash flow is crucial to that equation. And quite frankly, if you don't have that, you're kind of screwing yourself. So what are some of your healthiest habits? Like, what do you do? Do you work out? Do you do yoga upside down, blindfolded, raising capital for your multifamily deals, clicking mouse, and then, like talking to me, doing this thing on a microphone? Like, what do you do?
Yeah, not as far as the CrossFitter with the 8-pack guy, but I do intermittent fasting. Usually have an early meal at evening time. Don't eat till the lunchtime. Part of that came out of just being a cheap ass. I would get catered lunch a lot of times at work. So, you don't eat a small dinner and then you don't have breakfast and then you just eat all the free food you want, right? And then it'd be good for another day or two. Good way to save capital.
Yeah. I'm with you, man. I'm like trying to put on weight myself. I'm right now, like, I don't know, like I might be a Mighty Mouse wannabe, right? Like I'm probably going to get there at some point in time, but I'm also an ectomorph. So I'm trying to put on 10 pounds, and I just got this gigantic, like 10-pound tub of whey protein. Hopefully, like I'll be able to add the 10 pounds of the bucket in my body. So intermittent fasting is cool. And you used to do paleo, which is like super like healthy caveman eating, which is now what you used to do that, and now it's keto. What's the difference between paleo and keto?
I think paleo is more like it's a little stricter. Keto is kind of like just cut back on the carbs, the beer, like the crackers and those kind of empty carbohydrates, and just try and eat more vegetables, more mineral, vitamin dense stuff. I hear it like from folks like yourself all the time, and like me, like, once you figure out the financial stuff, now you start to tinker with all these other hobbies, like skinny guy getting bigger, like just try and get that 6-pack, right? Like,
Can you imagine like what if you and I start a new podcast, or maybe I should start a new podcast, right? And the podcast would be skinny guys putting on weight and investing in real estate at the same time. That would be a little scary, I think.
It would be like two opposite ends of the spectrum. Like people don't even know how to categorize you.
I don't know, right? So I have this really weird Indian accent too, which I'm probably going to bust out in a second. But I've been told that I probably shouldn't do it because you're drinking beer, man. Didn't you just tell me you're doing this keto diet, no carbs? Just stop drinking. It's not good for you. But anyway, going back to this Indian accent, I should probably do this more often, but then I'll get like an email with like some Indian uncle saying like, hey, this is probably bad of you to do because it's offensive to all Indian people. But I mean, I think it's a little funny, like a little bit. You must understand. Just
maybe that might be your altered ego of the guy with the deals. Hey, Abhi, you want a good deal, man?
Right.
Like.
Right. No, I mean, right. No deal. Absolutely. Zero idea what you're talking. No deal.
It's 20% occupied. Good deal.
Right. I have some feeling like you're trying to sell me a deal right now, like a deal gone bad. Yeah, no, I that's such a good idea. I was thinking about doing like this. You know how you have Mike and Mike in the morning? I was thinking about doing like Dave and Dave, or like Raj and Raj in the evening, and like just making a complete like mockery of sports all around the world. And it would be like this, like these two Indian guys that have anyway. So you're doing paleo and keto, and you used to do CrossFit, and you used to do a bunch of deadlifts, and so you're doing all this stuff. So you have a trainer who won the Hawaiian Iron Classic, and you keep changing your goals with that. What's like your long-term vision with health and fitness, and how do you think that drives you? Does that drive you to do, or does that give you a lot more energy when you're raising capital, you're out there?
I think it has. I mean, they always say like if your fitness isn't there, then nothing's there, right? Like the whole wagon falls apart. So it's definitely important. But I've been just trying to find the minimum effective dose of fitness, right? Like, CrossFit's cool, but you go like 3-4 times a week. It's nice that it's only an hour at a time, but it's like, man, it's like so mentally draining. And it's like, I got other shit to do, like I'm doing other things. I'm just not just doing bicep curls.
I can see you doing that. You have your, you have your laptop, right? You have your laptop and on your like left hand or like your left leg, and you're doing like, 25, 30 pound like bicep curls at the same time.
And doing calf raises too, right?
And calf raises.
Yeah.
Seated calf raises at LA Fitness, which is a terrible idea. But I can see you doing this because, this is like what
right?
Lane does. All right. So what do you attribute? So what is this? Question number 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Question number 4.
Cut and paste them in there as they go.
It works. This is good. So what do you attribute your ability to be prolific and productive to?
I thought about this question and I thought about you, Abhi.
What?
No, but I think you would agree that I'm pretty lucky. Like I don't have that many distractions. I don't have kids because that's a big one. And I got lucky with a lot of my initial positive feedback and investing almost a decade ago. So those, if any of you have read the book Outliers, it's not only, you're good at it, but you have sort of the same set of skills, circumstances that's brought you to this point. I think that some of the things I do well is I work hard and I do it consistently. And I always make tweaks along the way.
Yeah, I think for me it was being raised in a small town and probably one of like 5 Indian families there. There was Indian torture, and so that's essentially what it was for me. It was like you're either going to work hard or we're going to crack the whip. No, I'm totally kidding. That didn't happen.
Well, for a lot of you guys don't know, Abhi is electrical engineering. So
yeah.
He's no like psychology major or comm major, even though he's good on the microphone.
Yeah, this is just, I had surgery on my voice and now it just sounds amazing. Some people get plastic surgery, some people get Botox. I had my entire voice box just changed out from like a previous just washed up Hollywood producer. So my normal voice is just like, totally like this, man.
Yeah. Well, like today I was in a little conference or training session at work and I had a call scheduled. So what do? But I get a coffee. I have my coffee. I put it in the microwave. I go to the bathroom. As I'm leaving the bathroom, the coffee's done and I go outside and take my call. I'm like, who does that? Like
Lane does that.
Like if you follow me through the day, I do a lot of weird things throughout the day.
You should have a camera crew. You should just be like, the day in the life of Lane and just, let your company know that this is what you're doing. It's like a little self-starter mini Netflix kind of wannabe video series.
Yeah, it just didn't make sense until 8 p.m. at night, right? They all came together. All the pieces came together.
That's right. So looking back, so you've done a lot, right? You're working full-time. You're crushing it as an engineer. You're financially independent. You're investing all of your winnings in your full-time job into the business. What would you have done differently if you were to start all over?
I think a lot of it would be finding a personal mentor that would have guided me along the way. I have that now, which is pretty awesome, that it calls me out of my bullshit, tells me I have shiny object syndrome, and I do all these random things that don't attribute to the goal.
Yep.
First thing is figuring out what that goal is. But there was like from 2009 to 2015, 16, I was just another guy just picking up rentals, doing things haphazardly, thinking about doing a HELOC, thinking about refinancing, thinking about doing this other market. And yeah, I was doing it, which is great, but it was just all over the place. And it just wasn't, there was no foresight guide helping me and saying, no, dude, don't do that. Right. Just like making this podcast, right? You can screw around, do it yourself, or you can just get someone to come over for an hour. Hey man, help me out,
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I agree with you. I think finding the right people and the right mentors in the space it's like totally critical. Like, I wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't have mentors that like kicked my ass, 6 ways, like all the time. It's you need to be doing this better. You need to be doing that better. And now it's the media piece, right? It's okay. I'm very much interested in identifying what investors are. Did you just finish your beer? This is like your 4th beer. It's not even been like 5. Oh my God.
No, I just finished the rest.
No, it's good. So I think having these people in your life is super, super critical. And for those of you kind of wondering where you can go to find mentors, I would suggest take a look at visiting with a couple of meetup groups. Jump on Facebook. They have a lot of good groups there as well. Connect with some good people, some good players. Check out the RIA groups, the Real Estate Investors Association meetings that you have there locally, wherever you are. You can be in California, you can be in Detroit. It doesn't really matter. But there are a lot of these folks that just come hang out because they also want to give back. It's your job to convince somebody that has an awesome track record, that also attends these meetings, that you're somebody worth investing in. And I think that's really cool. I mean, you got to do that. So, I mean, you've spent a good amount of money on education. And I think that's a very important kind of vital component to anybody's overall success. What are some insights on how you determine which educational program is worth investing your time and money into? Because that's like super. When I started, I had no idea, right? Like, I'm just like, yeah, hey, just swipe a credit card and let's see what happens. And how do you know which ones the good ones are versus those that are like kind of scamming you and all this stuff? Are there any ones that you recommend that you've tried that you enjoyed versus those that you're like, no, this is a load of crap? Are we actually calling people out on like good programs, bad programs today? I think
we're actually not. You know, we're not going to say who are the bad people out there, because my mentor taught me never
that's fair.
Bad about others. I'm not going to go down that road, but
you're a classy guy.
Yeah, maybe if we had this question at the end, it'd be a different story, or maybe shoot me an email or something like that, or
right. Sending email now.
But I think you and I are both aligned with, like, that's why we do what we do, because I think deep down inside, one of the pain points, one of the things you're kind of pissed off about is that, like, there's all these paid programs out there and you don't need it, right? Like, everything's out there on the internet and you can just look it up yourself. But I think to distill it down, like, figure out what you need. Like for multifamily investing, for example, you need partners to do deals. You literally need somebody with experience, liquidity, and net worth to go get a loan for one of these big 100-unit buildings. And you try and get it yourself, but if you can't, you got to go to one of these groups and get it there. But if you're talking about single family homes, I mean, you don't need that. That ingredient is, you don't need it. I don't know, what are your thoughts? Because I feel like you're aligned with me on this, and this is why you kind of do what you do too.
Yeah, I think you can go to YouTube and at least get a good foundational understanding of what's going on, right? But then reach out to these people and say, hey, this is where I am. This is what I'm doing. Don't talk a big game. Don't do that. I think that's where a lot of newbies kind of get caught up in that circle and saying, hey, I'm a CEO of I Buy Georgia Homes LLC. Well, you know what? You're not, and everybody can see that, and it's not cool, right? Like, don't be bigger than you are. Be humble. Stay true to yourself. Understand what you're doing. Why? I mean, I'm not saying don't fake it till you make it, but just don't be like arrogant about it. You know, don't just say, yeah, I have a $15 million line of credit when it's not yours. Like, let's be honest. Like, if you're new, nobody's going to trust you with a $15 million line. Like, that's not going to happen. Yeah. But I do feel if there are programs out there and you need to spend the money to give yourself a quick kind of kick in the rear, then spend it, as long as you can connect with some of the students or some of the clients that have gone through that have seen success. And depending on how much access you also have to the mentorship, that's going to be important. I think for me, finding mentors that have always made sense has come in the form of going to industry conferences, identifying these people, and saying, you know what, I'm going to work for you for free. And that's actually something that I know you and I talked about, and just me telling you, like, hey, Lane, I think you are dominating the space. I think you're doing really well for yourself. If there's anything that I can absolutely do for you, let me know. And it just kind of turned into a super awesome relationship. And for anybody listening and watching this podcast, I think that's something that you should take to heart, right? Don't do it with any sort of expectation of anything in return. Do it because you ultimately want to help Lane achieve his goals. And I know that if you help him achieve his goals, that he'll definitely return the favor. So I've listened to another question here is I've listened to most of your podcasts. I have a problem with that statement, right? It should say all of your podcasts, not most of your podcasts. Whoever this is paying attention. I've listened to most of your podcasts and I did leave reviews, smiley face. Look at that. You even got an emoticon, Lane. Man, that's emotional. But can't say every single one. So apologize if I missed it, if you shared already. Okay. How do you manage employer manager relationships after they learned that you were doing this real estate investing, air quote, side gig with the eye of quitting your day job? I'm sure quite a handful of your listeners work for companies that have a requirement of disclosing outside business activities that require either company manager approval or compliance clearance, varying levels of scrutiny, or maybe just a disclosure. What would be your words of advice or caution on how to best navigate this when one cannot fully launch into investing full-time? That's a good question.
Yeah. Just change jobs really every year or two.
Yeah.
And no one will ever know. No.
That's you're right. That's like a total awesome exit strategy. Yeah. Hey, I know I'm doing really well and you guys are making a lot of money. Deuces. Like, peacing out.
But, well, I did write this article about all these kind of funny ways, like, you walk fast at work to make look like you're one of those guys who are like, oh, you got stuff to do. You got a lot of stuff on your desk to make you look indispensable. That's just kind of humorous stuff. But I guess in all honesty, like, I've kind of gone away from the private jobs and taken huge pay cuts to work for the government and, nonprofits. So it's not like I need to have like 100% like effectiveness at work. I know it sounds bad, but look, I could get paid a lot more, but I don't. I pick a job that fits very well with my side gig, which is sort of becoming my should be my full-time thing as of now, but I can handle both of them. I get the job done.
So you're saying identify, if you're looking for opportunities or if you're looking for jobs, identify maybe something that could even be part-time that pays just enough so that you have still some time in the day to explore the multifamily real estate investing, paleo eating, keto fighting side of your personality.
Right. Well, I'm not saying like go out and tell everybody you got a deal, going live deal, and you're looking for passive investors, or you buying a deal in
right.
Alabama, right? Like, you just keep it to yourself, tell people who you trust, because there are a lot of clock watchers out there. I think the job that I do, a lot more people have not as much stuff to do, so they watch the clock and they watch what people do. I mean, I think it's no secret that, look, I mean, I drive up in a Mercedes. Everybody drives up in Corollas. I enjoy doing that lifestyle. And like, people are going to say things, but like, look, I bust my ass, when you guys are at home watching Netflix, I'm working for another 4 hours every single day.
How much TV do you watch a week? Like,
probably none.
Yeah. I'm like 30 minutes a week.
Yeah.
I kind of need to know like what's going on in the world, but then outside of that, I'm,
Is that news or something, or?
Pretty much news. No CNN, but like just good old fashioned news. I'm a huge fan of MSNBC. Yeah.
You take the edge off with a little Shark Tank, huh?
Yeah, a little Shark Tank. Do I hear cops? Are they coming for you? What did you do? You left your Kawasaki bike somewhere. I think that's what you did.
I live in Hawaii, where it's like it looks like a Class C buildings out here, but Class A prices out here.
Yeah, I heard. One of my buddies went to, I can't remember which island he went to, and he's like, yeah, it's like $15 for a bagel and cream cheese. How do you manage $15? I mean, exactly. I have no problem swiping a credit card when I come back like to the continental US, and a bagel and cream cheese is like $2.50. It's crazy.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is like the jobs here just don't pay enough. I mean, I took probably a similar type position moving back home here to Hawaii, but it's like 30% less pay. And that's kind of like been my, I've told you one of my big motivations is to build a platform locally here to help people out here, because it's tough. Like good people, like they work their butts off, but you just can't survive on these wages out here for even good jobs. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense, but it is what it is, you know. If you buy real estate, you kind of transcend all that, I guess.
Transcend. You should write a book called Transcend, or after the current book I hear that you're working on.
Yeah,
I think that's
just a rumor. Yeah.
Yeah. No, total rumor. No, Lane.
Yeah.
No book. He's writing a fiction novel about a keto eating real estate investor, Superman, driving a Mercedes to work.
But you know, I do think like people are gonna figure this whole thing out. I mean, I am on my phone a lot, but I do get my job done, right? That's what I like working, because it's for the people, right? It's not for some private company. It's for the people. It's like a public service job. So I do feel like I have a responsibility to them to get the work done. But I bet at some point, maybe in the next few years, couple of years, maybe next year, someone's going to figure this out, and it's going to get pretty nasty at work. And things happen for a reason, right? You've heard that saying, and maybe that just might be the kick in the butt to just, you know, live like Abhi Golhar and just like jump in full time, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Quite frankly, I don't really know what was going through my mind at the time. You know, I graduated. I turned down a bunch of job offers from the West Coast, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to do my thing, and I just hustled until it worked. Again, that keyword I think of 2017 and maybe this year and next year is hustle.
Right.
But that's just what
but you had
I did.
proof of concept, right? So it wasn't just out of left field. Like it just made sense.
Totally. And I feel at that time, I thought if I could duplicate my effort, and if I can just stay consistent and I can just meet my minimum living requirements, then that I would be okay.
Right.
And that's what happened. In fact, here's a very interesting story.
We talk a lot about syndications on this podcast, and most of the time, these offers are only for those with an accredited status per the rules of the SEC. Now sponsoring the Simple Passive Cashflow podcast is the American Homeowner Preservation Fund, a crowdfunding solution to the mortgage crisis in America, empowering investors to fund the purchase of distressed mortgages. The AHP fund aims to keep people in their homes by investing in notes. It's an opportunity to earn returns while feeling good about making positive social impact. You can start investing with as little $100. You can learn more at investinahp.com. And if you want the free Burn Zone book, please send me an email at lane@simplepassivecashflow.com.
For the first 2 years after I graduated, this was 2006 to like 2008, I wasn't doing really well. And like I had failed in my real estate ventures in Detroit, inner city Detroit, mind you. And that's never a fun time, especially just, you know, it's just a bad idea. And I moved to Lincoln, Nebraska, and I was having a really tough time. My ex-girlfriend used to live out there. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do this. Like, I'm going to figure out a way to like make all of this stuff work. So my dad and I, whenever we used to talk, and we used to talk maybe a couple times a week, we're always going at it, right? Like he was mad at me. I'm like, why aren't you understanding me, man? And it was a tough time. And so he sent me a check in the mail. And he sent me a check for $5,000. And I'm like, holy cow, it's $5,000, right? It's like, it's a lot of money. Like, what's going on? And I was burning a hole in my pocket, right? I had like a couple $100, if that, barely enough to like pay rent, electricity, and like food. So here I was picking and choosing. And then I had this check in my hand for $5,000. And I called my dad and I'm like, what are the conditions of this check? Because you just wouldn't send me a check. There has to be like, you know, conditions. He's like, yeah, there are. I'm like, what are they? He said, condition number 1, if you don't deposit the check, you can continue doing whatever it is that you're doing. Condition number 2, if you deposit the check, you're going to come home and do what we tell you to do. And I think that in that moment, I realized like, okay, holy cow, like there's something that needs to turn on, something that I need to do that's going to propel me. And I didn't know it at the time. I was just mad at my dad. I'm like, this is bull, right? Like, are you kidding me? You're like kicking a homeless guy when he's down here.
Mind tricks on you, right?
It's a total like Jedi, like, you know, Indian dad mind trick.
Yeah.
And
you're going to come back and live in my basement.
Hey, I am a millennial, but I'm not that kind of millennial. So that's, and I decided not to deposit the check, but it kicked me in the butt saying, all right, you know what? I have to take more responsibility. I have to do more, and I have to expect more of myself than anybody expects of me. And I don't have to prove anything to anybody except myself. And that's what really then got everything kicked into gear for me. And I think that's kind of
it just takes the one thing, right? Like,
yeah,
whatever
it's the fuel,
the click. I mean, if that didn't work, who knows what would have, right? Probably would have been something else, I'm sure, but
yeah, no, I'm with you. So you have this work thing going on, and you're working at a nonprofit, you're kicking some butt there, you're kicking some butt in the multifamily space, and you have this very authentic vibe about you. Like every time I listen to you, I'm like, okay, cool. Like I'm getting a good dose of Lane. I get it. He makes sense. I don't have any questions really. And I'm fully like absorbing what you're saying because you're genuine and you're in the conversation instead of just like not being present with me on podcasts when I'm listening to you in my car. So how do you maintain that? Because it's difficult, right? Like,
yeah,
it's difficult to maintain that realness with your audience and have them continue to come to you over and over and over and over again. Is it like a drug that you take? Because then I need some, and I need help with this.
I think it's like actually just shut up and listen, right? Like that's it. And it took me like about episode 40 to episode 50 to kind of get the hang of it. And now I can see it. So I took this improv class, improv comedy. I don't know if you ever did that, Abhi, but it's pretty fun.
I haven't taken improv comedy. I need to do that though.
There's just one thing about like, just shut up and listen. Don't think about what you're going to say. Don't make it think about like it's a witty thing, right? Because everybody's all wound up. Oh, I need to say the funny thing because it's improv comedy. But the biggest thing is about just listening and then reacting. So I think most people are mostly thinking about like, oh, how am I going to impress people? I need to say something witty in a podcast setting, for example, but people don't listen. And it comes through so easily when you're not doing that. Kind of just being aware of that and just listening to what you're saying, hearing you and just saying, oh, okay, absorbing, as opposed to just, okay, cool, whatever you said, I don't even know, but I'm going to say this, it's a big thing. And it's really helped me, build connections with, a lot of partners I work with because people don't do it.
People don't do it. You took the words right out of my mouth. They just don't do it. Right. And I feel it's the people that will complain because they don't do it that will give you a hard time about creating the lifestyle that you have, because you know that the financial freedom gives you the freedom to do what you want. And I think for a lot of people that are interested in that, sometimes it seems like it's a little too far out, right? It seems like it's out of touch and out of reach and out of my reality. And sometimes these people are family until they come around like my parents did 2 years later. Sometimes these people are friends. Sometimes these people are siblings. Sometimes these people are mentors. And that are just like, you know what, Lane, I think you're just a pile of, like you're not worth it. You're not doing anything. What do you do to combat this stuff entering your brain? Because whatever you put in your brain is super, super important. And what you think becomes your reality. So when you have these people in your life saying, hey man, you know what, you're full of it. You're just doing nothing with your life, blah, blah, blah. What do you tell yourself? And then more importantly, what do you tell them?
I think you just kind of figure out like who are the people who are doing what you want to do and talk to those people. Again, a lot of those people are very positive people and they don't want to crush your dreams. But a lot of times, especially like friends or family, they will say things because they just want you to be protected, because you're kind of going off on a limb here and taking a risk and they don't want you to fall. Some people, they even, the crabs in the bucket analogy.
Yeah.
You're trying to crawl out of the bucket. They kind of bring you back down, kind of like, or like, they showed it in Batman, right? That was happening in Batman. They told her she couldn't jump up with that rope around her waist. But if, you stay around the right people, you're the sum of 5 people, and you stick around those people, you're probably going to make it where you want to be. and just being consistent after that.
You have a lot of listeners, right? You have a lot of people that trust your judgment. You have a lot of folks that come on the iTunes or SoundCloud or Google Play, and they hear your voice and they get excited, and they're like, hey, well, I'm going to learn something when listening to Lane's podcast. And some of these folks are probably wondering to themselves, like, who is he in general outside of like this dominating guy in the multifamily space? So how would you describe yourself to a complete stranger? You've never met this person before. They didn't email in with a question. You haven't done a 15-minute phone call with them using your whatever Calendly link that I have to fill out like 18 different fields to hit submit. Right? This is all part of like, it's every single time, bro. So describe yourself to a complete stranger.
I think I'm just a guy who asked the question, why? Like, why am I on this path of going to school, getting a good job, to work at that job, to get this income, to put it into the stock market? I think there's some other better way of doing it. And I figured it out. And it's kind of like, well, I want to share that with other people who are willing to listen. So for a lot of times, I don't try and like fight with people anymore. There's a lot of people that they go to a job, they've been working at it for the last 30 years. And I don't like to pop people's paradigm. That's a big thing of mine. For a lot of people, the job has given them their sense of value in the world. That's their identity. And I don't want to pop that for anybody. But for people who are questioning the whole system, like how I did, hey, bro, come along with me, right? I just want to help other people do what I did. And I don't see it. I get really energized by doing it. So it's not like, I'm doing it for any kind of goal or anything like that, but I generally enjoy it. And I've kind of seen the benefits of it come around where, like a young couple has kind of said, well, now we see it like next few years, like, now I can work part-time, I don't have to go to work all the time. I see how this is all going to come together and we just bought a couple of rentals, but I see how this is going to transition to the bigger stuff. And then now I can start thinking about actually creating my lifestyle the way I want.
It's interesting. Once you discover what the path is, you understand that the path isn't just one path, that it's an unlimited potential of anything that you want it to be. And the moment that you decide, hey, I'm going to buy 2 single-family homes next month or 2 single-family homes in the next couple of months, and I'm going to scale this from 3 to 5 to 10 to 50 to 60 to whatever number you want, or even if you don't scale, even if you just buy one, it's the manifestation of what your intention is in that moment. And that's the path of unlimited potential. For those of you listening, if you haven't checked out The Secret, that's such a tremendous starting point for a book. I mean, there are so many follow-up books to that explain the mindset piece significantly better. But The Secret's a really good place to start, and it really helps to facilitate this understanding that if the moment that we shut our eyes, the moment that we close our eyes, there's still an observer. There's still this energy inside of us that says, hey, there's stuff going on. You can hear it. You can use the other senses and figure it out. You can, you have the sense of touch. You have the sense of smell, hearing, taste, and you understand kind of what's going on. And that's the observer. And for the majority of us, we're still asking who the observer is. And getting to that point, I think, is tremendously important, not only for yourself, but then also for the people that you serve. So who's the type of person that you want to be? Who do you aspire to be?
I always think about like, what happens if you die, right? And you have this funeral. I mean, who's going to come to it? And I've been to some pretty, like, not to be disrespectful, but kind of lame, like, funerals where it's just like, oh, this guy, he had some kids, he liked football, his football team. He liked to play golf. And it's like, okay, whoop-de-doo, right? Like, what kind of impact did you make? It's fine. Everybody makes their impact in certain ways. But, like, I think it's cool when people, like, take a risk financially and, like, kind of get out of their comfort zone and try and help other people. I think that's the coolest thing. Yeah, you go and help. You can donate to charity and you do this and that. But you put your ass on the line and you sign on a recourse debt because you're trying to get your business started. and you're trying to like grow this thing and build a following so you can get other people involved into these good deals and get them out of Wall Street. I mean, that's like, I don't know about like all the slavery history, but I heard like, you know, those people on the Underground Railroad, they're putting their ass on the line, right? And not to say this is anything like similar to that, but you know, you can give money, but it's bigger when you put yourself out there.
And then I think that makes a very big and prominent statement to the universe, right? To who you are as a person and the type of work that you want to do. Going back to the Underground Railroad, right? There are many people that put their lives on the line to do and to help. And their sacrifice did not go unnoticed. And I think that's really, really, really cool. I think there's a little part of every one of us that says, hey, if I could be better, should I be better? Because it's really easy to get complacent with our lives. It's easy to say, hey, I'm comfortable. But like you said, you've done the podcast now. This is your celebratory 100th episode. And I think you are definitely feeling good outside your comfort zone. I have a pretty large comfort zone. I think we were talking
your
before.
Comfort zone is big, man. It's
before
like
kind of getting started
you're not
on
even
this.
wearing pants right now. I mean,
Dude, I'm so not wearing pants. I'm so afraid. Like if I have to like, you know, stand up and kind of readjust that. Right? I will totally forget. Oh my God. Yeah, I will forget. I'll be like, holy cow. And then everybody's going to see, you know, how neon green my boxer shorts are. Like that's not something that I want to, you know, that's not a very classy look.
We can edit that out possibly.
Yeah. You know, maybe put like a, I don't know. Put something else. Yeah. Maybe like blur it out or something. Yeah. That works. All right. Next question.
Yeah.
The qualities that you have today, what are the best qualities that you're known for?
I
feel like these are like some Tinder questions, man. These are like,
so a lot of, we kind of switched over from, to give the listeners a little context, we kind of switched over from the questions you guys submitted, and then Abhi kind of screwed me up and he started asking his own random questions.
Yeah, totally.
We're starting to get through these questions. That I went to this goal setting seminar earlier this year, and they asked some pretty damn good questions about where you are and who you are, because you can't make your goals unless you do that. Not saying we did like anything like a ashwagandha experience or we, you know, did anything like that, but you know, you get really emotional and you kind of figure out who you are. So this is where a lot of these questions come out from.
That's awesome. So it's like peeling back the layers of the onion until you kind of hit the core of who you are. Right.
Because you're trying to find what the core you are, because then you'll find your resonance frequency and then you'll be off and rolling. Because if you just do this for money, you're not going to be, you know, some people are really motivated by that, but